Prime Minister, there are a lot of bagpipes for the President's state visit, but no deal on whisky tariffs. When is there going to be a deal?
Well, as soon as possible, and I'm working hard on this. I know just how important whisky is to Scotland and just how important it is that we get the arrangement we need with the United States. I discussed it with the President last week when he was over for the state visit. It's part of our ongoing negotiations, but I do want to get this right. I do understand how important it is.
Because it's a bigger industry than steel. You got a deal on steel tariffs, so you raised this personally with the President.
Yes, of course I did, because I know how important it is. I would add, although they're two different things, that I am pleased that under the India trade deal, there is really big opportunities for whisky as well. So I want to do both sides here, get the US deal in the right place on this, and we're continuing those negotiations. But also I want to bring forward the India deal so that we can implement it as quickly as possible, because that will give extra opportunities to whisky.
On to another industry. You told me last year that you had the right package of support for Grangemouth. How many jobs did that save at Grangemouth?
Well, in Grangemouth, what we've done, I think, since we last spoke...
Because the answer is zero, Prime Minister.
Well, the answer is that we've put £200 million down from the Wealth Fund, and we are now talking to investors about the best option for Grangemouth, which I continue to believe has got a great future. It's a huge potential at Grangemouth.
Has that 200 million created any jobs yet at Grangemouth? The workers tell us they haven't seen any of that 200 million.
We're talking to investors at the moment about the best viable option for Grangemouth. We've got to get that right.
Because they do obviously feel betrayed.
I do want to reassure them and you and everybody watching that Grangemouth is really important to this government. To me personally, I was involved in the decision to put the £200 million from the Wealth Fund, the National Wealth Fund, into Grangemouth. It is now right. We've got a number of investors that we're talking to. It's important that we continue those, bring them to fruition to make sure that Grangemouth has the future that it deserves. And that's careful work, it's engaged work, but it's work that matters a lot to this government.
Anna Sarwar said at the general election that Labour would save the jobs at Grangemouth. What should voters think going into the Holyrood elections next year about that promise?
I think the fact that we've set aside £200 million for Grangemouth does show...
But it hasn't saved any jobs.
Well, it shows our commitments. We've obviously, what came with that, as you know, with the obligations in relation to training, reskilling the current workforce and making sure that there are viable options for them. But at the same time, I want to be more ambitious than that. I do think there's a great future ahead for Grangemouth, and that's why that money's been set aside and we're working with investors on it.
Is there a great future for Labour in Scotland, though? You're way behind in the polls ahead of the elections next year. Can I ask on principle, if the SNP wins the most votes, the most seats, does John Swinney have the right to form a government?
Well, let me first say we've got an excellent candidate in Annas for First Minister.
Yes, but I want to ask you on the principle, Prime Minister.
Make a transformative
if the SNP
change.
get the most votes and the most seats, does John Swinney have the right to form a government?
Well, of course he can form a government, but I mean, we're a long way out from the elections, long way out from the outcome.
And again, sorry, on the principle, this is important to some people in Scotland. If the SNP or pro-independence parties win a majority, can they hold a second independence referendum?
I think that is a complete distraction. I've often thought it was a distraction deployed when the SNP cannot defend their record in government. What we're talking about at this election is giving the SNP a third decade in power. Now, look what they've done with the NHS, with so many people on the waiting list. Look what they've done with education across Scotland.
Nevertheless, they are leading in the polls, Prime Minister. If they win a majority, will you allow, that is in your power, it's your decision, will you allow a second independence referendum?
At the last budget, we had a record settlement for Scotland, more money than has ever been given to Scotland under the budget.
You're not answering my question.
I will come to that. I just want to
well, we're nearly out of time, sir.
Because the point about independence for me is it's a distraction tactic which is always deployed by the SNP when they don't want a discussion about their
You won
record.
a majority at the last election. You're doing things that weren't in your manifesto. If the SNP win a majority, why can't they do what's in their manifesto?
I'm expressing my deeply held view that whenever the SNP are pressed on their record in office,
but you're not ruling it out. You're not ruling out an independence referendum.
We're not having an independence referendum. It is a
so
distraction.
You are ruling it out. It won't happen.
It won't happen. It is a distraction.
Despite, even if they win a majority.
It is a distraction from the record of the SNP.
We're nearly out of time, Prime Minister. If Labour fails to defeat the SNP after 19 years, does the buck stop with you?
Well, we're at the early stage of the campaign. We've got an excellent
Does the buck stop with you,
candidate
Prime Minister?
Anas, and we're going to run a positive campaign.
Is it your
into that
responsibility?
election. We are going to run a positive campaign into that election, and we're going to fight for and earn every vote.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.